Okay, well, thank you to everybody for being here, and thank you for the organizers for the invitation to do this. After these two great general context-setting talks, I'm afraid you're going to have to listen to me being very self-indulgent and drilling down into the one preprint server that I know quite a bit about. It's called bioRxiv. It began 3 years ago. It was launched by my colleague Richard Sever and I. And we work at Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory, which, if you are not aware of it, is a research institution just outside New York City. But for 80 of its 125 years, it has been a place where scientists came to share their work. So there's a long tradition, really, of sharing and criticizing that has gone on our campus. And so in many ways, bioRxiv is a logical extension of something that the lab has been doing for a very long time. The server is hosted by Highwire Press. It covers all of the life sciences with some tentative steps towards clinical medicine and also a rather lively section on scientific communication and education. It is modeled, we haven't said much about the archive, the Physics and Math Archive, but we should honor that project as the pioneer. And bioRxiv is modeled very frankly on the archive, except that technologically and with terms of features and functions, it really resembles what biologists expect rather than physicists. It's not for profit, it's free to both read and to submit to, and at the moment it is the largest repository of life science preprints in the community. So I just wanted to step very quickly through the process of submission. This happens to be that very paper that Lisa referred to from Dan MacArthur on the EXAC project. As a submission advances, it picks up various forms of metadata, which I will not go through in the interest of time. There is a screening process, which again I don't have time to go into, but basically checks out these questions that I've listed below. And then the manuscript arrives on the bioRxiv site with an abstract in HTML and a download button. And it has a DOI. And when it is revised, and this paper was indeed revised about 6 months after it was first posted, then all the versions remain available. And then when it is finally published, we make a link to the published version. And Dan's paper got onto the cover of Nature, which just goes to show that preprints can be published in real journals. Submissions to bioRxiv have risen steadily from the beginning and are in a rather sharp growth phase at the moment. We now have over 11,000 of them. I'm not going to talk much about revisions, but interestingly, close to 30% of these manuscripts are revised, sometimes multiply. There's a huge number of authors involved and institutions in over 90 countries.
I think the ceiling's leaking.
Oh, is that what it is? I thought I've heard of bringing the roof down, but this is ridiculous. So this shows you the curve of acquisition of new content. We just closed May last month. Gee, this is really bad. This is sort of like being a comedian in Glasgow on a really bad night. There are a few spare seats closer to the front. Come on, Mark, this has to be your fault. Okay, are we... Shall I carry on, or do you want do more people want to move? Yeah. Okay, the flood doesn't seem to be increasing yet, so I'll be quick. All right, so we just had the largest number of submissions we've ever had in a month, a large number of revisions as well. Usage is also going up and rather strong, and basically we get about 1 million amounts of accesses and general traffic in a site in the month. A popular feature of bioRxiv has been this what we call bioRxiv for journal transfer. This gives people, the authors, the opportunity to submit their manuscript directly to an increasing number of journals from within the site. And we also have a mechanism for in which journals can wow, that really is sound. That's really pretty impressive.
It's moving.
What do you think?
I think we should.
Yes.
Right across the hall that's open.
Yeah.
I'm going to suggest that we have a field trip and move across the hall.
And you keep talking, John.
Yeah. I can't remember who said it. Après moi, le déluge.
This happened before.
I think a round of applause for Liz. That was pretty cool, I have to say. All right, so as Noah said on Mount Ararat after the flood. Well, I was talking about the submissions, and these are our current numbers. Last May was the largest number we've had so far. Usage is also going up a little less steadily. And, oh yeah, I talked about this question of transferring manuscripts between journals, and I'll kind of come back to that. But so that feature, I mean, I should have said that right from the beginning, we did not want preprints to be some kind of isolated silo of content. The whole point was to try to integrate preprints into the publication ecosystem. So these transfers were very important for us to set up, and we are very grateful to this group of publishers and there are others, some of whom are here in the room, who have worked with us on allowing this kind of manuscript transfer to take place, and also the manuscript submission companies that have worked together to make these transfers happen. In the case of the bioarchive to journal transfer, we've been going for about a year, and that the rate of choice is going up with each month that passes, and the J to B process, the journal to bioarchive process, is older but at the same time newer because the technology has expanded. So again, the rate of transfers is going up there too, and authors really seem to like it, and so that's something that we are going to be pursuing. This is just a sort of snapshot of the preprint life cycle. Oh, I seem to be going faster than I want to at this point. Okay, how do I stop that? All right, let me go back. Yeah, so there are different stages in the life cycle. Obviously, you've got a source of content, it's brought into the system, it's screened, it's hosted, displayed, and then, as I said, transferred to a journal. And the first 3 years of bioarchive was set up basically like this with, this is very sensitive, with these different components, which I will not take time to go through. No, I've gone back too far. Yeah, I won't get time. I don't have time really to go through each of these steps, but this is basically how we did it, with the screening process being a human-based process, and we are going now. So we had this in process, and we thought we had a vision of what it might look like going forward, which I've called 2.0 here, with a different set of content sources, new generations of ingest and hosting portals, different kinds of screening, different kinds of display and download, and different technologies for sharing content with journals. That was as far as we got because basically we couldn't afford to do that. But we were very, very fortunate to be approached by the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, particularly Chan Zuckerberg Science, the principals of whom are scientists who are very prominent in our community, who recognized that bioarchive was taking off among the biomedical science community. And after a very short number of conversations, we realized how much in alignment their goals and ours were. Their goals are the modest ambition of helping to cure, prevent, and manage all diseases in our children's future. And I hope everybody knows that Chan Zuckerberg is, of course, this is the philanthropy of Mark Zuckerberg and Priscilla Chan, with a very broad ambition to work in many different fields, and science is only one of them. But part of the mission of Chan Zuckerberg Science is to look at and help support new approaches to the communication of science in the hope that this will speed up the rate of progress of knowledge. And we have been the very fortunate beneficiaries of that funding as of the end of April. So that gives us enormous opportunities and enormous responsibilities to do useful and interesting things, and we plan to do a number of improvements to the site in basically all of the activities that we are doing right now. One of the early ones will be the generation of XML-based text. We can do that manually at the moment, but we're going to be exploring the creation of automated tools for that. And we're also interested in the possibility that authors themselves might start by generating that kind of rich content from scratch. We also are looking at various ways of enriching the basic text, and that might be the source data project that EMBO has pioneered, might be runnable software of the kind that comes out of Jupyter notebooks, and it might be protocols. We're also looking at ways of improving our screening process. It's, as I said, very much based on human beings at the moment, and we can always add more human beings. That's not really a problem, but we're also looking to modify how they do their work with maybe classifying manuscripts right from the start as requiring different levels of scrutiny. And we're also going to explore automated means of screening. There's also the question of commenting. We have quite a lot of commenting on bioRxiv site, more than one would expect in a journal context. We're using the discuss module at this point, which is okay, but not great. And one of the things we're interested in exploring is the idea of annotation through, in this case, through the Hypothesis project that you may be aware of. There are a whole bunch of other things that we might explore or will explore. One of them is to work with the company Meta, which was recently acquired by the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, and we're looking forward to that opportunity as looking to improve means of discovery. We're also, as we have done from the beginning, going to continue our advocacy for preprints in general, and that means working with authors, it means working with journals, and with funders. Chan Zuckerberg, for example, is requiring the investigators that it funds to put preprints up before they send papers for publication, a little bit like some of the groups that Lisa referred to at Broad. And there are other organizations that are either doing that or considering doing that. And then we also, of course, want to work with Jessica's group, which has done so much to raise consciousness of preprints in the biomedical community. There are many emerging preprint services in different disciplines, and one of the things that we are working towards is having a meeting of those entities, probably in early 2018, to talk about things that preprint services have in common, such as how do you do screening and why do you do screening and when? What do you do about manuscripts that sadly, very, very occasionally have to be taken down? What do you do about citation? And then the whole question of technologies for manuscript transfer, which is in an interesting state of discussion at this point and will be discussed more in a session at this meeting tomorrow. We are also hoping, well, not hoping, we are determined to get more help and more advice in how we're going to do all of these things. The generosity of the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative funding allows us to hire additional staff, including a content lead and a product lead, who will really be senior people who will be taking over the day-to-day management of the operation. And also we want some more in-house help on our screening process. And we are in the process of considering how to set up advisory boards for each of the aspects of bioarchive as we go forward, covering these particular areas. So one thing that is part of our agreement with CCI is that tools that we are going to be jointly developing will be open source and shared and made available to the community as a whole. And really this last quote is just saying what I said earlier, that bioarchive is really a continuation of an institutional commitment to the sharing of science and the sharing of the tools of science. And so we've had enormous amounts of support from the laboratory to get this far, and we're looking forward to an exciting journey to the next stage. Not quite as exciting as that last session in there, though. But thank you very much for your attention.